No, my wife, Michelle, I'm not out here to sing. I'm here to say, Diana Davis Spencer, what a great American you are, and like everyone in this room and every family organization represented in this room, I think the future for America is bright because of your witness. Another round of applause for our great friend. Two groups of people I want to recognize, one a small group and one I'm sure a little bit larger group. But it's incumbent upon me because so many of you have come up to me over the last few days and said, Kevin, great job for this event. And I mean it when I say it, I deserve no credit. Because every single person at Heritage, every single person who makes our work possible, every single organizational partner, every single elected official, every alumnus of Heritage really deserves credit for this. But there are three people in particular I want to identify and recognize tonight. They have some gifts that will be best enjoyed on a Saturday night, maybe a Friday night. And so for our co-chairs of this event, Rob Bluey and Bridget Wagner, would you please stand and be recognized for your great work? And as if that wouldn't put me in enough trouble, during our next senior management meeting next week, the next one really will, because this young lady who does everything while being completely unflappable, even when I joke with her about forgetting what I'm supposed to do, which of course I may still do, she never wants recognition. Mary Swift and her team are the best in the business. Mary Swift, thank you so much. I hear giggling in the back, and that probably means that's because Mary's going to trip me when I go back there. But all kidding aside, thank you. And in all seriousness, you know, we've thanked the staff of the Gaylord. Thank you again. We've thanked you. But there's a group of people we really need to honor always, because we wouldn't be here without them. If you are a veteran of the armed forces, please stand. Thank you. I intended in my liberal arts historian way that you would intuit I also meant active duty, but in case you didn't stand in your active duty, are you out there? Okay, you understood. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. This is why Mary's in the back saying, it's always better when he has notes. Liberal arts, what can I tell you? I will have some other comments at the end of the show. I hope you're ready for those 2 hours. But it's a real privilege to introduce someone who's become one of my many new friends since I became the president of the Heritage Foundation. Someone who would be on my television set at home, probably about right now, if I were not here with you. Someone who understands the role that every American plays as we try to reclaim and rejuvenate this country. Someone who understands the power of humor. Someone who understands the long American and English tradition of sarcasm. Someone who maybe when he was a young colleague at Heritage more than 30 years ago as a copy editor, proofreader, writer at our then policy magazine, Policy Review, might have learned something about the Heritage custom of always being cheerful even when we hit hard. You can smile when you hit hard, as long as you're not trying to throw the first punch. Someone who understands that in 2023, something has changed about America. and recognizing what has changed in America, which is that it's harder and harder for the everyday American to remain clawed to the American dream, who understands that for the first time since Pew and Gallup were taking polls about these attitudes in the 1940s, Americans aged 30 and younger are the first generation to have less optimism about the future. Someone who understands that recognizing that doesn't mean that we're demonizing America. In fact, quite the opposite. What we want to do is fix that. And the way to fix that is, as we like to say at Heritage, to use radical candor, to read reality truthfully. And God bless him for having the courage, in spite of all of the barbs, all of the arrows he receives for speaking the truth, to show up every night on our television sets, to really make possible the ability to see someone who's a communications expert explain what the problem is, who would also, in his gratitude for the professional formation that Heritage offered, be here with us tonight. And as I joked with him backstage, knowing that he couldn't eat his salad or his entree because so many were visiting with him, his steak was really good. I might also make a joke, having done some bird hunting with him in September, that one of the two of us was, just by arithmetic, the better shot. And I'll let him confess to who it was. All of that to say, I know that all of you are grateful for his witness. And it is a witness. It's a witness to that flag right over there. It's a witness to the ideals of America. It's a witness to the truth that we are given from God, and a witness that you can at the same time declare what is wrong with the present day and also be zealously optimistic about the future. Would you please join me in welcoming our friend, Tucker Carlson.
One of the key differences between conservatives and liberals is that liberals really mean it. And by it, I mean politics. So for the average conservative, the purpose of politics is to clear space for the things you actually care about. The point of the other side is to wield power. When the Biden administration pulled out of Afghanistan and armed the Taliban with one of the largest militaries in the entire region, no one was punished. When it turns out the vaccines didn't do what they told us they were going to do. When the lockdowns hurt more people than they helped. Not one person was punished. So it would be encouraging to see someone punished for this debacle, for the 1,000 train derailments we have every year. You don't want the Third World War because you have children or grandchildren, because your own country is in deep trouble, your economy's falling apart, so you're not all in on World War III against Russia and China, and you get a moral lecture from these people? Right, okay. It's like getting a moral lecture from the banks. I'm going to steal your identity and then mock and degrade the immutable characteristics that define you as a person. And then as I do this, you are going to smile brightly and applaud and then give a speech about how liberated you feel. You don't like the direction of the country, have children, raise them the way that you want, consistent with your beliefs. When they're telling you that the two things you cannot have are guns and prayer, you know for a fact that those are the two things you need most. You will change the world if you are brave and calm enough to articulate what is true. Over time, that works.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tucker Carlson.
Thank you. Oh yeah, thank you for having me. I love the music, thank you. You're really nice. I feel a little underdressed looking out in this crowd of handsome, well-dressed people. I just came from work, and if you wear a tuxedo in the air, they think it's the March of Dimes, so I didn't want to make any, I don't think it was a telethon, so pardon my appearance. It's amazing to be in a room. This is far more people than live in the town that I live in. I haven't been in an elevator in 3 years. That's how remote my life has become, so it's just very cool, or worn socks for that matter, to be in a room full of nice people. And I want to thank you, Father Scalia, wherever you are. That invocation, for some reason, that really got me. Yeah, it did. And actually, I'll just tell you, since it's just us and no one's watching, that it reminded me that I don't pray enough for the country, and I should. And I'm upset. But the answer is to include the country in your prayers. So thank you for reminding us of that. Anyway, thank you. I just want to start by saying that I'm grateful to be here, and I want to tell you why I am here. There are two specific reasons. The first and most immediate is that during this fall's midterm elections, I got almost every single call wrong. I typically don't weigh in on races because, you know, what do I know? I don't actually cover politics. But here are two conclusions I've come to, which I think are slightly less depressing than the most obvious, which is the country's really going at high speed in the wrong direction. Yeah, no kidding. Like in ways that are just unfathomable. And for people my father's age, for example, who's 82 and such a decent man, and I could go on forever about my dad, who I saw this morning, you know, was just born in an orphanage called the Home for Little Wanderers in Boston and became a success and the head of a federal agency and served in the Marine Corps and sort of lived the America that you imagine is possible for people who are smart and try hard and all that. For people of that age, it's too much, actually. The change is too much by it. I would say two things that are, I think, worth thinking about. The first is you look around and you see so many people break under the strain, under the downward pressure of whatever this is that we're going through. And you look with disdain and sadness as you see people you know become quislings, you see them revealed as cowards, you see them going along with a new thing, which is clearly a poisonous thing, a silly thing, you know, saying things you know they don't believe because they want to keep their jobs. If there's a single person in this room who hasn't seen that through George Floyd and COVID and the Ukraine war, raise your hand. Oh, nobody? Right. You all know what I'm talking about. And you're so disappointed in people. You know, you are, and you realize that the herd instinct is maybe the strongest instinct. I mean, it may be stronger than the hunger and sex instincts, actually. The instinct, which again is inherent to be like everybody else and not to be cast out of the group, not to be shunned, that's a very strong impulse in all of us from birth. And it takes over, unfortunately, in moments like this, and it's harnessed, in fact, by bad people in moments like this, to produce uniformity. And you see people going along with this, and you lose respect for them. And that's certainly happened to me at scale over the past 3 years. I'm not mad at people, I'm just sad, I'm disappointed. How could you go along with this? You know it's not true, but you're saying it anyway? Really? You're putting your pronouns in your email? You're ridiculous. You know, but no one else thinks it's ridiculous. Oh no, it's the pronouns in the email. What does that even mean? What does it even mean? You're saying things you can't define. LBGTQIA+? Who's the plus? The plus is invited to my show anytime. Find a plus and I'll interview him. What's it like to be a plus? Am I a plus? I'm serious. I feel like I'm an addition. Does that make me a plus? No one even knows what it is. And the whole society, LGBTQIA+. All right, what's the plus? Oh, shut up, racist. Okay. So you reach that place and you feel, and this is one of the reasons, Father Scalia, I was actually overcome a little bit with emotion as you prayed, because I realized that I was so upset by the behavior of some people I love, frankly, in a country I revere and always have, that I wasn't praying for the country. You know, that's on me, and we all should be. But back to my point. So you see the sadness happening. But there is, as there always is, this is a fact of nature and theology and of observable reality, there is a countervailing force at work always. There's a counterbalance to the badness. It's called goodness. And you see it in people. So for every 10 people who are putting he and him in their electronic JP Morgan email signatures, there's one person who's like, no, I'm not doing that. Sorry, I don't want to fight, but like I'm not doing that. It's a betrayal of what I think is true. It's a betrayal of my conscience, of my faith, of my sense of myself, of my dignity as a human being, of my autonomy. I am not a slave. I am a free citizen, and I'm not doing that. And there's nothing you can do to me to make me do it. And I hope it won't come to that. But if it does come to that, here I am. Here I am. It's Paul on trial. Here I am. And you see that in people, and it's a completely unexpected assortment of people. I'm really interested in cause and effect, and as I noted at the outset of my remarks and my ability to predict the future, working on that. But because I'm sort of paid to predict things, I try and think a lot about, what connects certain outcomes that I should have seen before they occurred. And in this case, there is no thread that I can find that connects all of the people who've popped up in my life to be that lone brave person in the crowd who says, no, thank you. You could not have known who these people are. They don't fit a common profile. Some are people like me. Some of them don't look like me at all. Some of them are people I despised on political grounds just a few years ago. I could name their names, but you may not even know about their transformations, and I don't want to wreck your dinner by telling you who they are. But there's in one case someone who I made fun of on television, and certainly in my private life in vulgar ways, who was really the embodiment of everything I found repulsive, who in the middle of COVID decided, no, I'm not going along with this, and once you say one true thing and stick with it, all kinds of other true things occur to you. The truth is contagious. Lying is, but the truth is as well. And the second you decide to tell the truth about something, you are filled with this, I don't want to get supernatural on you, but you are filled with this power from somewhere else. Try it. Tell the truth about something. You feel it every day. The more you tell the truth, the stronger you become. That's completely real. It's measurable in the way that you feel. And, of course, the opposite is also true. The more you lie, and, of course, the opposite is also true. The more you lie, and you hear a baby crying, and so you run inside. No one is trained to stand up in the middle of a DEI meeting at Citibank and say, this is nonsense. And the people who do that, they have my deepest admiration. And so their example really gives me hope. It thrills me. I talk to them all day long, people like that. That's the first thing. We should, in this sad moment of profound and widespread destruction of the institutions that people who share our views built, by the way, earlier generations that would agree substantially with every person in this room, they built those and now they're being destroyed. And that's so depressing. But we can also see rising in the distance new things, new institutions led by new people who are every bit as brave as the people who came before us. Amen. Here's the second thing I'd like to say before I get to the conversation with Dr. Roberts, which is that it might be time to start to reassess the terms we use to describe what we're watching. So when I started at Heritage, the presumption was, and this is a very Anglo-American assumption, that the debates we're having are kind of rational debates about the way to get to mutually agreed upon outcomes. right? So like we all want the country to be more prosperous and free and people to be less oppressed or whatever. And so we're going to argue about tax rates. And I think higher tax gets us there. I'm a Keynesian and you disagree, you're an Austrian or whatever. But the objective is the same. And so we write our papers and they write their papers and may the best papers win. I don't think that's what we're watching now at all. I don't think we're watching a debate over how to get to the best outcome. I think that's completely wrong. And I've come to this conclusion, and I should say at the outset I'm an Episcopalian, so don't take any theological advice from me, because I don't have any. I grew up in the shallowest faith tradition that's ever been invented. It's not even a Christian religion at this point, I say with shame. But I'm just saying this as an observer of what's going on. There is no way to assess, say, the transgenderist movement with that mindset. Policy papers don't account for it at all. If you have people who are saying, I have an idea, let's castrate the next generation. Let's sexually mutilate children. I'm sorry, that's not a political debate. What? It has nothing to do with politics. What's the outcome we're desiring here? An androgynous population? Is that really what are we arguing for that? I don't think anyone could defend that as a positive outcome. But the weight of the government and a lot of corporate interests are behind that. Well, what is that? Well, it's irrational. If you say, well, I think abortion is always bad, well, I think sometimes it's necessary, that's a debate I'm familiar with. But if you're telling me that abortion is a positive good, what are you saying? Well, you're arguing for child sacrifice, obviously. It's not about a teen girl gets pregnant and what do we do about that and victims of rape. I get it. Of course I understand that and I have compassion for everyone involved. But when the Treasury Secretary stands up and says, you know what you can do to help the economy? Get an abortion. Well, that's like an Aztec principle, actually. There's not a society in history that didn't practice human sacrifice. Not one. I checked. Even the Scandinavians, I'm ashamed to say. It wasn't just the Mesoamericans, it was everybody. So that's what that is. Well, what's the point of child sacrifice? Well, there's no policy goal entwined with that. No, that's a theological phenomenon. And that's kind of the point I'm making. None of this makes sense in conventional political terms. When people or crowds of people, or the largest crowd of people at all, which is the federal government, the largest human organization in human history, decide that the goal is to destroy things, destruction for its own sake. Hey, let's tear it down. What you're watching is not a political movement, it's evil. So if you want to assess, and I'll put it in and I'll stop with this, I'll put it in non-political, or non-specific theological terms, and just say, if you want to know what's evil and what's good, what are the characteristics of those? And by the way, I think the Athenians would have agreed with this. This is not necessarily just a Christian notion. This is kind of I would say, widely agreed upon understanding of good and evil. What are its products? What do these two conditions produce? Well, good is characterized by order, calmness, tranquility, peace, whatever you want to call it, lack of conflict, cleanliness. Cleanliness is next to godliness. It's true, it is. And evil is characterized by their opposites: violence, hate, disorder, division, disorganization, and filth. So if you are all in on the things that produce the latter basket of outcomes, what you're really advocating for is evil. That's just true. I'm not calling for a religious war, far from it. I'm merely calling for an acknowledgement of what we're watching, which is not what, and I'm certainly not backing the Republican Party. I'm not making a partisan point at all. I'm just noting what's super obvious. Like, those of us who are in our mid-50s are caught in the past in the way that we think about this. One side's like, no, I've got this idea, and we've got this idea, and let's have a debate about our ideas. They don't want a debate. Those ideas won't produce outcomes that any rational person would want under any circumstances. Those are manifestations of some larger force acting upon us. It's just so obvious. It's completely obvious. And I think two things. One, we should say that and stop engaging in these totally fraudulent debates where we are using the terms that we used in 1991 when I started at Heritage as if maybe, I could just win the debate if I marshaled more facts. I've tried that, doesn't work. And two, maybe we should all take just like 10 minutes a day to say a prayer about it. I'm serious. Like, why not? And I'm saying that to you not as some kind of evangelist. I'm literally saying that to you as an Episcopalian. The Samaritans of our time. I'm coming to you from the most humble and lowly theological position you can. I'm literally an Episcopalian, okay? And even I have concluded it might be worth taking just 10 minutes out of your busy schedule to say a prayer for the future, and I hope you will.
Good job.
Thank you.
Oh man, the chance to interview Tucker Carlson. Do I have some questions? But because you made your first point 7 times, we only have a few minutes.
Sorry, well, that's kind of a signature move for me.
Yeah. Must be the elitist in you.
Well, there's a lot of that still.
We've got time for 2 questions.
Great.
But all seriousness, Tucker, thank you. What a great message.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yep.
It was heartfelt.
Things go south at Fox News, there's always a job for you at Heritage.
Well, you've saved me before, so thank you.
We do that for a lot of people very happily. We're not called America's Outpost for nothing. Yeah, think about that. First question, all kidding and sarcasm aside. What do you think over the last 10 or 20 years, whatever timeline you think is appropriate, has changed the most? That is, and I mean that socially and culturally, I don't mean that politically, although you can go there if you want, that has affected everyday Americans' lives?
The lack of information. This is so name-droppy, but I can't resist because
It's the elitist in you.
No, I know, it must be. No, I was actually interviewed Elon Musk this week, and he
There
said
you go.
So, I know. I was talking to Elon Musk, Elon and I, smoking a cigar on his G4, and he turns to me and he says, Tuck, he calls me Tuck. No. No, I interviewed him for work, obviously, and he had such a wonderful line, and he said, the most likely outcome is the most ironic outcome. And I thought, boy, that's actually I would argue that's a Christian precept, actually. It's kind of the Beatitudes, the first shall be last. And the opposite of what you think is going to happen happens. And so often, so the internet, the core promise of the internet was as much information as we've ever had at your fingertips, and the result has been a centralization of information. This is deliberate, needless to say, but unnoticed by most people, that results in more controlled information than we could even have imagined 20 years ago. So a lot of information just is not available. I mean, because it's digital and it's controlled by a small number of companies, the polling suggests that a lot of Americans, and I don't mean like hundreds, I mean hundreds of millions of Americans, have no idea what's going on. They don't know the facts about certain things. That it's not just because they're dumb or they're distracted on their iPhones. The whole point of the iPhone was to inform you, and the net effect has been to make people completely ignorant of the core, of the actual facts, like the non-disputed facts about a lot of different things. And you saw this certainly during COVID. So that challenges the idea of democracy, which rests on the notion of an informed voting public, of a citizenry. And we don't have that. And that really, I never would have expected that at all. And last thing I'll say is don't throw away your hard copy books, because they are the repository, the enduring repository that cannot be, and I'm dead serious, and I don't mean to, I'm not going to tell you to buy golden ammo, though obviously you should think about it. But definitely don't throw away your books, because they can't be disappeared, because they exist physically. And I would say a corollary to that is don't throw away your relationships with other people, because they can't be disappeared either. The material, the physical, things that you can smell, those are the things that you can trust. your spouse, your dogs, your children, especially your dogs, but your actual friendships, your college roommates, people in person. As the world becomes more digitized and people live in this kind of this realm that's disconnected from physical reality, I think the only way to stay sane is to cling more tightly to the things that you can smell. And I've really gotten to the point where if I can't smell it, I'm not dealing with it. And I mean that. And that includes books. Anyway, that's what's changed.
Books, relationships, and ammo. Tucker Carlson's Guide to the Universe.
Yes.
That is awesome. Well, we've got 46 seconds.
Okay.
This one. And it's tight because we have two real treats, even after you.
I talk too much, and my apologies.
No, don't apologize. All great. I knew you were going to talk more than you said you would.
Every time, ask my wife.
And now we're down to 28 seconds. So when everyone wakes up tomorrow, whether they're staying here or they're able to go home, what should be top of mind for them to do in their local community?
Oh, well, the very first thing you should do every single day is tell all the people you love that you love them, for two reasons. Because you do, and affirming things out loud makes them real. Words are the most important and most powerful thing that we have, and of course I have an interest in saying that. If I sold Chryslers, I'd be like, cars are the most important thing. But words are, in the beginning was the word, and so articulate it. And that is also simultaneously an acknowledgement of a truth that we don't face, which is we don't know what's going to happen today. And we could die. That's the one thing that unites every person, is the certainty of death. And reminding yourself of that every single day will bring you, paradoxically, joy. I love you. That's the most important thing.
What a wonderful response. In a lot of ways, that's a fitting way, not for just you and me, to conclude our brief conversation.
Sorry.
You're never going to live that one.
Yeah, well.
But in a lot of ways, also a good way for us to conclude this gathering before some additional entertainment. And so I will ask all of you to join me in thanking Tucker Carlson for being here tonight and for what you do.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
But we're not done yet. Thanks again, Tucker. So in a few moments, just a few moments, my friend and colleague Genevieve Wood will be here and tell you a little bit more about what we're going to do, but I wanted to leave you with one thought. Of course, I've told you it's sort of two thoughts. I'll be abusive like Tucker was. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for those of you who've been here for the last few days, but I'll cut to the chase in the interest of time because we have so much in store for you for the next little while. And that is every single time that Americans' backs have been at the wall. 1763, French and Indian War. 1776, you know that one. 1781, the first few hours of the Battle of Yorktown, if you know, weren't really a given. The War of 1812, I mean, right where we're sitting, basically, the British were here and the future of this young country was undetermined. The Civil War, obviously, both world wars, the wars of more recent times, plus the political cataclysms that happen in a republic. Every single time, no exceptions, people thought it could never be worse. People despaired. People were despondent because of human nature. And yet there's something about the American spirit, represented best by that flag, that ought to tonight and every night, instill in us a hopefulness about the future. Not just a perseverance, not just the great cardinal virtue of fortitude, which is kind of quintessentially American, but a hopefulness that as we fight, as we charge hills, as we bear the burdens we have, that we always know for the United States of America, bestowed with so many virtues as a society by our Creator, there's always more. Thank you for celebrating 50 years with the Heritage Foundation, and don't you ever doubt that when the chips are down, we're going to be there charging the hill with you. God bless you.